Yo, so about a week ago, I posted a video of me using the Gamma Plus boosted, cutting down the hair with a #1 tight guard, pretty much showcasing how the super torque motor can cut through anything. And my man's right here has a crazy shrinkage out of this world. It's unbelievable. So my man's was definitely growing his hair out for a little bit, and he slowly started making me kind of cut it down. I don't know what he was really going through. He was trying to pretty much, you know, try something new, which ended up resulting to him doing a big chop. And the crazy thing is his texture is so tight. And what I mean is this is usually what his hair looks like and how he wears it when he styles it. That's my wife, of course. This is a few months back where she did do a 2-stranded twist with a braided base for him. If you want to check out this video and how the whole process went down, I will link that in the video description below. But this is the first week after cutting his hair down. The growth as far as how the hair grew back in is perfect. He wants to get waves, and I literally can just give him a lineup and probably do a drop fade with this, but I'm just kind of prepping it with some water and spraying a little aftershave on the front just to kind of dry up that skin so I can prep it for the lineup. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do a drop fade style just like I did a week ago, but I'm going to pretty much take the hair down a little bit more because let's face it, there's some training that he has to do. And what I mean is he has to brush his hair quite a bit if he really wants those waves, because he has a very, very tight curl. This hair texture is not easily managed, but if you do what you need to do as far as making sure that, for example, in this case, he's going for waves. If you do what you need to do, you will be just fine. And I'm cutting the hair down, of course, with a 0 guard with the clipper lever all the way open, following through the hair with the grain. I'm making sure that I follow the growth pattern or the way that the hair flows. I'm starting from the crown and working my way out into the hair, just following his flow, his pattern. And I have coached him on how he needs to brush his hair. So let's hope that he listens to me, because it's very difficult for clients, especially those who are going for waves, to follow through with it. Eventually, some of the clients do get the waves started out. They do what they need to. They follow the process of achieving whatever the desired hairstyle, or in this case, waves. Clients tend to always rebel when you tell them, this is the product you need, this is the shampoo you need. It doesn't really matter what you use as long as it works for your texture. So like a butter, a pomade, for example, sometimes just a moisturizer, depending on your texture, can work just fine. But I know those of you who are waver kings or waver experts may be yelling at this screen, cringing at what I'm saying, but I'm being honest, just from a barber's perspective, it's not that difficult to get waves or achieve any style. But anyway, I'm not going to drift too far off from what I need to be talking about here. I am now using my Gamma Plus skin clipper. This is a balding tool for those of you who don't know, and it helps pretty much save your trimmers. You can use your trimmers, no problem, to bald out, but I like to use a balding tool. Most of the time, I'm using a trimmer, but for the most part, if you're going to be balding out hair, you should use a balding tool. But I'm just letting you know what you need to do as far as saving your tools. If you're using a trimmer, that is completely fine, but I'm going to kind of go right underneath the occipital bone and along the side. As you can see, I'm not going up too high. I'm just keeping this at a very decent or manageable level as far as the length, because this is a drop fade, but it's going to kind of morph into a shadow fade. So with that being said, I'm making sure that I keep everything evenly distributed from the right to the left, all the way around the back and everything. So that way I don't have a hard time when it comes to creating my next guideline, which will be used with the boosted. I did cut the hair down a week ago using the boosted. That thing's a beast, but it's equipped with a fade and blade. So I'm going to make sure that I use it in certain areas of the fade, just making sure that it's cutting as much as possible, because he has a very tight curl, and in some cases this hair texture in particular can be very difficult to cut with certain blades. You can do it with pretty much anything, but you want to make sure you're using the proper equipment when it comes to certain textures. So what I will say is this super torque motor is very unforgiving, especially if you're using it on straight hair. So if you're angling this blade, especially this fade blade, a certain way, you might patch up somebody. But in this case, with his hair being very close to the scalp and it being a very coarse texture, you tend to manage the hair just a little bit better with this fade blade and this super torque motor, which is a rotary motor. But something like the CYBORG is very, forgiving, as in it has a softer cut, even though they are sharp. With the digital motor the digital brushless motor that the CYBORG is equipped with, you can really, manage. But anyway, after creating that second guideline, what I did do is close halfway, and I close completely to start blending out that line that was initially created with the Balding tool. So that way that I can soften up as much as possible. So if I need to use something like the CYBORG, which has a softer, more precise touch due to the blade set that it's equipped with, I can go ahead and execute that line. And if I need to pull out something like a trimmer or bring back the Balding tool, as in the skin, cool. But anyway, I'm moving into the hair and using my next guard, which on this part, depending on how you are feeling, you can go with a 1 guard or you can do a number 0, of course. In this case, I am using a number 1 guard and just following through with the same steps that I did with no guard. I open the clipper lever all the way, then I close it halfway, then close it completely, just to kind of soften up the line. And this is a really interesting haircut to go about, because you have to literally have a feel for the texture to see and know what you need to do, because it's a feel style haircut. By the way, if you are hearing anything in the background that sounds unbearable, there is some construction going on outside of my suite. They are doing some renovations to this building, which are overdue, and I'm glad that that is happening. Thank goodness, because this place did need a facelift. But anyway, I'm moving on to my 0 tight guard. This is the 1/16th, and pretty much doing the same steps, going ahead and using the open, closed halfway, and close completely technique, and making sure that whatever weight lines are left behind, I remove completely. So as you can see, I just lost the guard, and I'm going to pretty much use that click system on this boosted clipper appropriately according to what I see, because I have to, of course, be the judge due to this being a feel style haircut. So same thing, just make sure you're removing each line that you see. Any weight that is left behind, remove it according to what you see fit. So I'm going to slap that guard back on, still using that 1/16th 0 guard, the tight guard, of course, and using that same method, the same system or technique, whatever you want to call it. Open completely, close halfway, and close completely, but make sure you're improvising and use those other spaces on that click system. If you have a floating lever, that's okay too. It's amazing naturally. It's more of a fluid, flowing, free flowing type of lever, which tends to work appropriate for some haircuts, but I appreciate the click system, and whichever way you go, it should work out for you. Trust me, just don't rush the process. And like I say, this is going to give you a drop fade slash shadow fade type of look, because I'm not balding everything out. The only bald area is at the lower part of the haircut. This does look bald all the way up to where the side or right below the ridge, but it's actually shadowed in there. And just a FYI, I usually always recommend a bald fade or a shadow style drop fade on a lot of my people that want to go for the wave, so that they can give their hair the proper training, because at the end of the day, you do tend to cut the hair along the edge towards the line just a little bit shorter, especially for people who have this style, texture, or just wavers in general. I do know tend to cut their hair lower along the edge towards that lineup. It's just the thing to do. It helps tremendously as far as getting your waves and keeping that hair lineup prepped and ready to be able to get a fresh line, is what I'm trying to say. But, teach their own, because waves do tend to have this curl that you get along the edge. Some people don't mind it, but those who get annoyed by it have no idea why some of us barbers actually talk them into doing this, or have them do it in the first place to begin with, because we tend to talk a lot of our clients into certain things. And if they say no, they say no. It is what it is, because clients' preference usually wins. And if you're one of those barbers that just does their own thing, cool. If your clients are coming back, that's fine. But eventually they're going to start noticing that you're doing the exact opposite of what they are requesting from you. So, yeah, just be careful, y'all. Be cool out here. Make sure you're doing what your clients want, especially these wavers and the people that wear tapers and other style undercuts with, more of the curl look or braids or locks in some cases, are very picky. A lot of clients are picky, but there's no picky client like someone that wears waves or a comb over. You know what I'm saying? Those are some of the pickiest clients you will ever have to deal with. Anyway, the fade is completed. The lineup is prepped. Everything's nice and dry and ready to go. If you recall at the beginning of the video, when I started to work on this haircut, I did spray him down with a little aftershave at the front, as well as some water, just to make sure that I get some control. No holding spray here, so making sure that everything's controlled, and there is a slight little darkness that is left behind, so that way when I execute this lineup, of course, by starting into the middle area, or starting on the middle area, that middle section, then moving my way out into those vertical bars, I'm making sure that I'm manipulating the hair that was intentionally left behind. And what I'm talking about is just how dark that looks when I do set in the line with the trimmer. It's not like I have fibers or any kind of whatever manipulation people tend to do nowadays, or enhancements, right? This is just natural, and I zoomed in just so I can show y'all that there's nothing funny going on here. It's just the Gamma boosted trimmer is hitting, it's doing what it needs to, but your line prep is very important, and it will determine how well your line will show. So make sure that you manipulate the hair based on how you cut it. Like in this case, I tend to intentionally leave the hair in the front. It's kind of like what I was talking about with the wavers. In this case, he's not a waver yet. We're gonna see where this goes, but any haircut that I do, I manipulate the curl pattern, so that curl that wavers tend to get, that is called overhang or fringe or whatever you want to label it, you will tend to have that on any texture. And for me, I use that to my advantage to make sure that I manipulate the line. So Take advantage of the trimmer blades corner. All about the corners. It's all about the corners. How you do the corners will determine what everything will look like as far as the end result of your work. So I've done the left side. I'm going to move on towards the right side of the hair and making sure that I execute everything symmetrical, and be sure to do everything even all throughout. You don't want to rush this, okay? Take your time. Use those corners of the blades. Make sure you're using only the corners, because every time you tend to place that blade flat, you will cut, depending on if it's a zero gap tool or whatever the case, you will cut or irritate skin. So be careful. And my man's right here, skin is very sensitive. Let's say that he tends to kind of get a little bit of breaking out, regardless of if it's just a trimmer or blade. So he could never really get away from it. And I believe he wears glasses, so him wearing glasses tends to kind of leave a little bit of a mark. I know you saw that on the other side towards where the frames arms sit. They tend to leave some breaking out, but in some cases he is a teenager, so teenagers, in this case, their hygiene level or just hormones, or how do you call it, puberty is what I'm trying to say, Jesus, will tend to get in the way of things. So yeah, manipulate the hair as best as possible. And after I'm done with the boosted, I'm going to go ahead and use my hitter, making sure that I follow through whatever that boosted left behind, and making sure that I just sharpen up everything just a bit more. I got to make sure this thing pops, and this is what helps you achieve that 3D look naturally. There's no funny business going on here, no enhancements. So for those of you that patrol, that's not what's going on. This is just, what I do. All right. I manipulate the line. This is my expertise. That thing looks good. I know y'all see it. It looks really good. And we are in the game. He is official. At this point, I'm just doing some detail work and making sure that whatever I left behind is removed, so that way I can go ahead and recline him or have his head rest back onto the headrest so that I can execute the razor work. Very straightforward, easy stuff. You can't go wrong. Just take your time. If you want to achieve blurry blends, take your time. Do not rush. Don't skip steps. The more you do what you need to do, the better off your work will be. Simple as that. I promise you that will never fail you, and you will keep your clients or customers coming back to back to back for more and more and more. That's what it's about. The return. Make sure your people are coming back. If you can keep people coming back, you're gold, you're platinum, you're winning. That's what I call golded. You know what I'm saying? If you don't do your part, people will definitely flake out. They will renege. They will eventually start your chair hop and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it, y'all. I mean, this thing's looking really good, right? I know y'all see it. It's coming around. It's shaping up how it needs to. It's really forming up very well. The razor work is really bringing out that line. All I'm doing here is making sure that I set my guy up for success. He wants waves. He's going to get those waves, and I am going to make sure of that. As long as he does his part and I follow through on my end, he'll be just fine. With waiver cuts, you can either stay in the shop often. Bi-weekly is fine. Otherwise, you'll be looking a little rough. In some cases, people that really take the waves very serious tend to not really come in that often because they're always doing these woofs or whatever the case. But let's face it, if you're a coarse hair waver, you need to be in the shop often. Keep it fresh. Trust me, there's times where I let my hair go and I do rock the waves. I'm by no means anywhere close to what you would consider a waiver, but I do a great job as far as the upkeep of my waves, which look very decent visually, but they're not as deep as what some people would do. But anyway, this is the final cut, y'all. This is the final results for his second haircut after the big chop. This is what it looks like. Tell me what y'all think in the comment section. Let me know if this was helpful in any way. Please follow me on my different platforms. I am on Facebook, Instagram. I have Threads as well as TikTok. If you have any questions that you don't want to leave in the comment sections, please feel free to DM me on whatever platform. I respond right away or as soon as possible. If I don't get to it, I just probably didn't get the chance to hit you back, or I didn't see it. Sometimes a lot of these messages end up in the requests part of the messages or folder, whatever you want to call that, right? And yeah, this is it, y'all. Don't forget to shop Gamma tools as well as Stylecraft by using my code J.Exquisite discount code and save some money. And just a FYI, if you are not shopping directly on the Gamma Plus or Stylecraft site, be sure to hit up my Amazon storefront. Everything that I use, just as linked in the video description below, is available on my storefront. So that will be tremendously helpful for my platform. So please shop on my Amazon storefront. But I will catch y'all on the next one.